Hey guys, we're the Hard Time Strongmen podcast, training up a better class of man. And today, the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. We're not going to talk about eco-terrorism today. Today, we're talking about the aftermath of an EMP. Because I finally got you to start reading 1 second after, and you're just as horrified as I am. Let's get into it.
I am.
Welcome back, by the way. No one else really felt your absence because it was just like one episode without you, but it's been a long time. You had a good time with family, so yay.
Yeah. I've been traveling the last 2 weeks, so glad to be back. Glad to be back at it.
Glad to have you. Let's just
been, like you said. Yeah, like you said, I started reading this book, and I am. Let me put it this way: it went exactly as I thought it would.
And I really appreciate just the realism. You know, I mean, obviously work efficient, but just the little details of everything that he talks about, like the insulin, or just like how everybody starts looting. You know, there's that lull where everyone's like, I have no idea what's going on, like just all of it. And then just all the considerations, like the airplanes, like the medications, like the doctor, you know, like whenever they do their little town meetings and the doctor's just like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to have like probably 200 or 300 people die this month because they're out of medication now. And it's just like that little small town doctor who like knows everybody's medical history.
Yeah. I had 13 people. Yeah. I had 13 people die today.
Yeah.
It was a good day.
And he's like, yeah, we're about out of amoxicillin. So if anybody gets an infection now, they're, you know, what are you going to do? Right. Just like so much, man. It's crazy. But yeah, I absolutely loved I love the realism in it. And what we're talking about today, guys, is 1 second after by William R. Forstchen. Forstchen. I'll throw a link in the description. But it's it's part of a trilogy, right? It's the first book of a trilogy. Yeah.
Yes. It is the first book of the trilogy, and I am 2/3 of the way through the first book. And like you said, and we've said before, I'm horrible, terrified. Like this is, well, I'm not already terrified, but it's.
Oh, it makes you think.
Concerned. How about that? Yeah, it really does. I was literally on the plane reading this, and I'm going, man, I really hope this doesn't happen right now.
So, book starts out, you know, guy just, you know, normal backstory. Guy says, you know, family, kids, and, you know, he's visiting family out in Tennessee. Then everything cuts off. Cars, lights, AC, electricity, everything off. The base of the book is an EMP attack on the United States and the aftermath of that attack.
It really focuses on the human condition and the humanity of it all. And it goes exactly the way you think it's going to go, because that is just how civilization is. Once people start panicking, and even before that, you have the real piece of shit who just decide that they're going to take advantage, and they do. And it's pretty freaking crazy.
But I mean, just the thought, and that's what gets me, is that through all the preps, all the training, all the mindset, everything that we do, just to think that your world could just shut off and you would have nothing to say about it. There's nothing you could do to prevent macro, like to prevent that situation from happening. You know, it's just freaky.
Yeah. Essentially, think if we got hit by an EMP airburst, I'm talking like 30 plus miles up. Think that essentially the US would get shuttered back to the time before alternating current or direct current. Like it would be gas lanterns, think hospitals with absolutely no power,
everything,
medications,
everything
spoiling.
Without any power.
So yeah, it's basically getting shuttled back.
Well, what, you know, this was, you know, pre-recording, but what I was talking about where, you know, it's like just as a country, imagine if everybody, we got just put back on the boats. And then we're like, oh, here you go.
Yeah.
Like, because that's essentially what that is. It's a complete reset back to zero. Like, good luck.
Mm. And this prospect is also why we push to learn these skills, because these skills don't require electricity. You got to learn how to grow your own food, because there could be a time where something like this happens and you're either caught out or you're not. And you could be one of the millions of people who just can't cut it, who can't survive, and you're just done. You're done, your family's done. It's a very bleak
Well,
prospect. But that's what happens if you just don't know what
well,
to do
especially
or
if
can't do
you're
it.
closed-minded, like, oh, I've got everything I need to take care of myself. Like, well, if you have a family or friends or people you need to take care of,
Yeah.
right? Something that they talk about in the books is that,
Mhm.
or in the book, One Second After, that it spends a lot of time talking about people starving, because that's the big killer later
Yes.
on. But it talks about
Mhm.
how you would have these young families and the parents would die, they would starve to death, but then their kids would essentially be ushered into another family. Like, they would entrust their children to somebody else's family. And someone commented, just like, that doesn't make any sense. How did the parents starve before the children? What kind of parent would
Think
let their
about it,
child
guys.
starve? So the meal lines, any meal that those parents could scrap together, that
Right.
was going to their kids. And so I ask you,
Yep.
yeah, you may be the biggest bass dude on the block who's prepared for everything for yourself, but you're not going to watch your wife starve or watch your children starve. So if you're not prepared for you and your entire family, it doesn't matter. That's why we push
Yeah.
being prepared, in
The
the
big thing.
community so much. That's why we push being trying to,
Right.
be autonomous so much, off broken away from the system, because the system, we are so ingrained in the system in the United States right now that if you aren't, and this sort of event happened, like, that's your entire life just gone. You have to start from zero.
Go on.
Yeah,
You're essentially dead.
unless if you
Yeah.
are already disconnecting, like if you're already getting a sustainable, making sustainable food sources and food networks with your community, if you're already, finding ways to collect and purify water, and, on and on and on, where you don't have to rely on that system, then that culture shock, that shock when something like that potentially happens, that's there's no learning curve there. It's like if you're hanging out on the couch, someone comes in and turns the lights off or kicks a breaker in your house and everything goes dark. That's exactly like, that's it. You have no warning. It's just gone.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. The only water you got, man, you better hope you're in a gravity fed area, because if you don't, electricity goes off. What you got in your
Yeah.
pipes, that's it. That's all you got, unless you
Yeah.
got a stream nearby. So,
So, more of a serious
man,
episode. Let's dig into the didactic portion a little bit. So, what is an EMP? What are we talking about here?
so when we're talking about EMP, we're talking about, well, I guess the too long didn't read version of this is a nuke goes off. There's a shock wave, and along with that shock wave is an electromagnetic pulse. It's just a crap ton of energy being released that is actually not radioactive at all. And it will short out electronics. And if somebody airbursts that thing like 30 plus miles up, everything within line of sight on the grid connected. However, if it has a battery attached to it, if it has a wire attached to it, it is very likely going to be toast, unable to be
So,
used
line of
again.
sight, think about that. You said earlier, like a 30-mile, up airburst. Think about how much you can see.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, I
it's
can tell you exactly. I can tell you exactly how much that is. If if a nuke went off 30 miles above, let's just say, well, you know what? I'm going to use this. This is sourced from um, heritage.org. We're talking about the dangers of EMP, and they have sourced out that a 30-mile altitude detonation would mean that 720,000 square miles would be affected. So we are talking everything from Dallas to southern Minnesota and almost Denver to the Indiana border.
Dark.
Everything within there is toast. Absolutely just North Korea at night, gone. If you detonated at 120 miles up, 3.14 million square miles affected. So we're talking Virginia to Nevada and everything in between. 300 miles up, 6 point, essentially 8 million square miles affected. So essentially Maine to Sacramento, California.
Yeah.
Just dark.
Yeah. I'm looking at the radius right now.
Think
So
about
that 300
that
mile
is
altitude, that's 95% of the continental
that's
United
scary.
States gone.
Yeah.
Now, something that
Easily.
they tackled in the books,
Just
the situation
gone.
that they present in the books, which leads into our bullet point on plausible scenarios, right? They're talking about 3
Mhm.
synchronized explosions. So 3 EMPs, go on
Yeah.
your corners. Now imagine how simple that is. Not just one blast, but multiple. I mean, yeah, absolutely insane.
I mean, if you weren't screwed the first, I mean, think about it. What we did to Japan. I mean, we nuked them twice because they
Mm-hmm.
didn't learn from the
But
first
imagine if
one.
this was
So
you. What report was that you were talking about with North Korea? We were talking about in the pre-show.
okay, so that came, yeah, that came from somebody who did a report. Where is this at? Listen, looking. So there's actually a couple. I'm sitting here trying to find it. No, that's not it. God, this is all just freaking terrifying. Just reading through all this crap. It's like, needless to say, the average person is not ready for this. You may think you have, like, okay, let me put it to you this way. The average person has a surge protector in their house,
Mm-hmm.
right? To protect against, you know, stuff coming through power lines. Well, chances are those are not rated for EMP. So your surge protector is nothing more than a conduit for that EMP to get to
Yeah.
more of your electronics.
What you described it as what? An antenna. Everything that's corded.
Yeah, an antenna. That is exactly what it is. It's a freaking antenna, and it is not great. But this kind of stuff's been talked about since
Yeah.
the 60s. Like ever since ever since we detonated nukes and we
Mm-hmm.
learned what an EMP is, it's been and what it can actually do to electronics. I mean, because back then in the 40s, when we first detonated nukes, we didn't have the sophistication of the electronics that we do now. So the smaller it gets, the more it can be easily affected by an EMP. That's the
Well,
long
what
story short of
report do you
this.
say that
So
that like streetlights were cut out?
okay, so that stems from actually a nuclear test that the United States did. It was called the it's called Starfish Prime nuclear test. It was conducted in 1962. A nuke was detonated over Johnston Island, and God, what was that? It was detonated at a altitude of 250 miles. So it was a 1.4 megaton explosion, and it turned off 300 lights, 300 street lights in Oahu, Hawaii, which was 780 miles away. Like, think about that. It knocked out telephone service in Hawaii. and automobile ignitions fused on the Big Island, Hawaii. Honolulu burglar alarms were activated. So that was within 780 miles as well.
Insane.
Yeah. Yep. 250 miles up. The picture of it's pretty freaking crazy. That was the Atomic Archives one that I sent you.
Yeah. Well, I was just looking into that that other article that you sent me regarding North Korea.
Yeah.
So just to
Trying to find that. I have so many sources pulled up
so
right now.
just of that article, and that was the threat of nuclear electromagnetic pulse to critical infrastructure. So the gist of that was
Okay.
as far as adversary threats to the United States. So North Korea is not and will not be on par with the United States, in our nuclear capability, right? But with EMPs, our knowledge and their capabilities, they don't have to be.
Right.
That's the scary
They just
part.
have to get one up high enough in the right
They
place.
have to get one. They have to get one high enough within line of sight. That's all.
Yeah.
Like, that is absolutely insane to me. And the thing for me, and we're going to dig into considerations for you guys, to better prepare and to, we're not going to make this just a doom and gloom episode, right? But it's really hard for us doing this episode because it's nearly impossible for us as hosts who've grown up and lived in the United States to list all the considerations that there are for the scenario.
Oh,
because we take all this for granted. We grew up and lived here, right? So things that you don't even consider or think about, like, this is so far out of our imagination, right? So what happens when an EMP goes off, right? If it's at night, you can suddenly see the stars again. If you're in a big city and you haven't been able to see the stars since you were a kid and you had all that light pollution, you're suddenly looking up at the Milky Way like, oh, holy crap, what's that?
Yeah.
Everything
so essentially
that was light is dark.
Essentially, it'll turn your area into North Korea at night.
Everything that was making sound is now silent. Like, it is capital D dark, is capital Q quiet, capital S silent. Like, I have a highway pretty close to my home, right? I can hear, most of the time my brain just kind of cuts it out because it's not needed information, right? So I don't really, quote unquote, hear it. But if an EMP went off, all those cars are quiet. All those AC units are cut off. Every TV, every child's toy, everything is off. So we talked about in one of our situational awareness episodes on our senses, right? I think it was our third episode of the 5 senses. You're now able to hear so much, so much more. Whether or not you can see a knife, you have night blindness, that's a thing now that you have to consider. Yeah. Whether or not you can find things in the dark in your own home, in the interior of your home at night, is a consideration for you now. Right? Think like
I gotta say it. I gotta say it. I can't not say this. Your NVGs are now useless.
Yeah.
Get ready to do somebody's laundry.
That's petty.
You can cut that. You can cut that little tiny section.
That's petty.
But leave the NVG part in.
Yeah, no. Like, I don't care what equipment is. It's off. Your red dot sights. Your if it's not tritium or passively illuminated, all of your reticles are now dark too. I mean, we talked a little bit about the world stage about like going back on the votes, but like, if this happened to the United States, your country doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, you are immediately balkanized.
You are immediately
Immediately.
balkanized down to pretty much the smallest community. And
Right.
if the country that attacked you like did their due diligence and shielded themselves before, so you're theirs now.
Mhm.
We're here to help,
Yeah.
but go away. But we're here to help. And what the hell are you gonna do? Think about just communications wise. Okay. Yeah, of course all the cell phones are down. Okay. If you did your due diligence and you got a radio, a decent radio, and you threw in a Faraday cage, wonderful. That's great. That's better than most of everybody else. However,
And 99.9% of people.
you're limited to line of sight with that radio at best because every
Yep.
repeater is gone. The cell phone
Yeah.
towers are gone. The satellite, and I don't know all of the science behind this. I don't know the full capability. I would assume that any satellite within line of sight is gone.
It's toast. Yeah.
So satellite phones are
I would
out
assume
too.
so as well.
GPS,
Mhm.
anything. Think about anything with a screen. A lamp. I'm using a lamp right now. We're talking on a computer. This isn't possible. Like, and that's the thing. Right? I live in Texas. You live in Florida. We would probably never talk again. We'd probably
Yeah.
never see each other
More than
again.
likely not.
So if you're listening to this, think about
The
your
only
buddy that's in
way
a different state or
Mhm.
buddies that you made online. They don't exist to you anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, your OnlyFans doesn't matter anymore. You just lost contact with your girlfriend.
like who, like what and who you have is all you've got at that point.
Yep. And I really hope you've got seeds and know how to grow your own food.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, we're really cramming down the doom and gloom down your guys' throat right now. But I mean, this is such like it's an impossibly serious situation. So
Yeah, and we hit on that impossibly too because so many people think that it's not going to happen. Nobody would actually do that to us. Um, guys, China's little retarded brother would 100% do it.
1,000%. Well, think about I
Yeah.
mean, think about any near peer threat or any adversary of the United States. If they could get away with it, 100%. Why not?
It wouldn't even take a near peer. Like it's some splintered freaking terrorist group. If they could get a rocket to get a freaking dirty bomb up into the atmosphere, it's gonna do some damage.
Yeah,
It's gonna do some serious damage.
yeah,
And it's not even from the radiological fallout. It's from the EMP that's gonna do that.
yeah. It's crazy,
Because
man.
the fallout requires radioactive ground particles to be thrown up in the air and to come raining back down. That's all fallout is.
Yeah. I'm not saying, yeah, nothing like yeah.
Yeah,
The nuke episode's a different episode. The
ugh,
actual fallout from a nuclear attack that's a whole other monster.
yeah,
But
that's
so let's dig into let's get into some thought process. Let's go into some considerations for this. Okay,
okay.
so we all know the pillars of survival. So let's dig into it. So water. So like you mentioned earlier, right? You no longer have a water pump if it's not manual. If it's not a mechanical water pump,
Yep.
you no longer have it. Okay. So where, think about where you live, right? How do you get your water? Is it gravity fed? Do you get it from a water tank, a water tower? Do you collect your own water? Do you get it from a river, a stream? Do you think back through? So, we're talking about this in our patrolling class, but back planning, right? So where you are now, back plan the farthest you can go, and where do you get your water? Because if there's electronics between here and there, that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. If you're connected to the city like sewer, you no longer have water. What you have in your pipes is it. What you have ooh, what you have in your hot water
I was
heater
gonna say your
is
your
it.
hot water heater, right? Yeah.
What you have bottled, like I have a serious stack of water bottles
Mm-hmm.
in my garage right now, what you have is water bottles. That's it, bro.
Hmm.
Unless you have some way of collecting it, be it, um, like you said, streams or even like rainwater.
That's all.
Yeah, I hope you got something.
Yeah.
I hope you got something
I mean, think
because
about
otherwise
that.
you're going to be hauling buckets back to your
I was
house.
gonna say that. Think about that per person per day. And
Yes, we've
you
gone
think
over
you're going
that.
to stay where you're bugging in with water? Okay, until it runs out. Or you think, oh well, I'll bug out.
Hmm.
Not with all that water. You're not. Water is heavy,
Yeah, ounces make pounds, pounds make pain.
so we can always go back to basics with water, right? So you need a renewable, good source of water that you can be collecting from, and then you have your mechanical filtration, right? That doesn't cost any electricity. Okay, so you have your gravity feed filtration systems, you have your
Hmm.
pump systems, you have things like the Sawyer water filter where you can just compress the water through or use it like a straw or whatever else, right? You have your chemical filter or your chemical purification. Okay, so iodine, bleach, aqua tabs, anything like that.
Chlorine.
Yep.
Yep.
Uh, what else? UV. That's more of a tricky one,
Yep.
but that is possible.
Boiling.
Boiling, always boiling.
Boiling.
Yep.
Life straw. I mean, that's your that's your last ditch is a life straw.
Yeah. But food. I have a great story about food.
Jeez.
while we're
I'll
while we're
bet.
getting into it. Uh, so my wife texted me while I was at work yesterday, and our wheat had gone bad that we had in some food storage in our pantry. Our wheat
Mm,
had gone bad, and we got
mhm.
infested by I don't even remember what they're called, like weasits or something, but goes after wheat after it's spoiled. Completely infested the bag, big freezer bag
Oof.
of wheat, completely infested, and then they went after all of our dry goods. So
Oh,
everything
man.
in there was gone, and we're left with canned goods.
The dangers of sourdough starters.
And now we're left with canned goods because they were obviously safe. But even in as about as good situation as you can get, that's all gone,
Yeah.
which was quite a lot, and we have to
Yeah.
build that back up. Okay, so you need to be thinking about food storage. Obviously is great. It's a great stopgap for where you're at. Give yourself some time to breathe, some time to think. Potentially help people. Right, that's always important. But then, what are you going to do? Because
Yeah, because you no longer have a freezer.
no, your freezer's gone. So
Your refrigerator's
you
gone.
better find a way to smoke all if you have meat in there, cook and smoke that, or use that food before it goes bad. Otherwise it's just wasted
Yep.
food, right? But
Yep.
think about where you get your food. Okay, that is one thing that Americans are horrible at, is not thinking about where they get their food from, right? But all of those meat production farms, like,
Gone.
gone,
Yep.
gone. All that meat wasted. All that meat's freaking rotting, and it'll
Yeah.
never see
And
you.
don't think you're gonna go down to your local farmer and, like, take one of his cows because then he's still gonna have all of his cows and a dead body to deal with.
Yeah. But you mentioned gardening,
This
right? We had a
Yeah.
great
Learn to
guy
grow
on
your own
the
food.
podcast, T-Bomb 08, right?
T-bomb.
Great
Yep.
resource for gardening. We're getting a little more into gardening. I saw that you had your seedlings, right? You had a really great setup there.
Yeah, so I did. I just did a new setup where I took the top, like, lift up portion of my Craftsman tool chest that's basically unused. It's been storage this entire time. Emptied it out. Took two magnetic hooks, plucked them right up against this roof of that. Put a grow light, one of those long ones with two tubes on it. Hung it from that. Plugged it in there. Have my seed starter kit just sitting there, which is just basically peat moss pods, dehydrated. You hydrate them, put the seed down in there, plop the top back on there, it's a freaking small greenhouse, especially with that grow light. Like you're golden. You can run that 24/7. You're
Awesome.
gonna have seeds started within probably a week, week and a half.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But if the power goes out, I don't have that anymore.
yeah, but you're starting. And that's
Yes.
with the benefit of a grow light. But you can make that happen with just sunlight. You can move things
Correct.
around.
And that's how I did it in the
You
past.
could, change your
Yeah.
priorities on space and, everything else, and you can make that happen. But
Correct.
having a useful garden, even if it produces just a little bit, right? Something that the book talks about is victory gardens, right? Back from the World Wars,
Mhm.
everybody having a garden, because instead of just one person on your cul-de-sac, having a garden trying to feed everybody, you have everybody, then that takes a lot of the weight off.
Yeah. And not to get too nitpicky about it, but that also requires someone to actually like water their stuff, to actually pay attention to it, to actually be able to recognize disease and rot and when things need to get plucked. And once they do get harvested, how do you store it?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot that goes into these gardens that people just don't consider.
Right.
A lot of you don't even know when a pepper honestly needs to get harvested
Mm-hmm.
from the plant. You just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and you don't know
And
what you
that's
don't know. So,
exactly. Exactly. You don't know until you're doing it, and then you realize, "Oh, shit, I don't know any of this." So, this is a problem.
yeah. But gardening, right? Talked about baking bread,
Mhm.
baking sourdough bread,
Yeah.
right? Huge, simple thing that you can be doing, but something that, we're not, that's not a priority right now. When food is a
Right.
priority, that's, gonna, get bumped up on your list and you're gonna get pretty good at it. Right.
One thing you do need to consider, though, too, is a lot of the bread that we eat in America, it has a lot of sugar in it. And I guarantee you the 2 things that are going to go the quickest are going to be sugar and salt,
Mm,
because people are gonna be using salt to preserve their food.
yeah. And
So,
on those
once
lines,
that's
we're going to be
gone, it's
seeing a
gone.
lot of hypocalcemia. Lot
Yes.
of it.
Yeah.
But hunting,
Yeah.
and that's going to be completely dependent on your area. Because if you're
Mhm.
in the city, if you're in the suburbs, that's, you know, it's not for you, man.
Yep.
Sorry about it.
I mean,
But
best case scenario, you've got coyotes and you've got the family dog. I hate to say it,
rabbit,
but the family cat, local rabbits, squirrels, they're all going to be on the menu. It's the most distasteful thing that you can really think of because if you're a cat person, I mean, it's your family. It's your dog person,
is your
again, it's your
family. Yeah.
family.
But
You could be a weirdo and that squirrel is your family, but still, I mean, if it comes down to it, push comes to shove, you're probably going to have to end up doing the bad. I hate this episode
yeah, this
so
episode
much.
sucks, man. But
This is
I mean, that's the
terrible.
thing. It's like that or your family starves,
Correct.
you know?
Yeah.
That's not something that
How far are you willing to go?
that's not something that a lot of Americans are even ready to think about.
Mhm.
But
And see, that's the thing too. We've talked about this so many times before. It's like this is why we're pushing for people to relearn. I'm telling you, relearn the skills that were commonplace 250 years ago, because it could be just like that that we are back 250 years ago.
yeah,
Take one crazy person with a freaking trigger finger, and we're back there.
yep.
And I hate to sound like, you know what? Screw it. Noah was the original prepper. Everybody thought he was crazy until the rain started coming.
Not wrong.
Not wrong. And that's what preppers are today. We are the modern day Noahs. Some of us are a little bit crazier than the others, but I like to think of it as, they're a little more prepared than the rest of us.
Hmm. Well, and that's another point is not prepared just in equipment or stores, but Noah
Right.
and his sons built that ark
Yes.
with their
Skills. Skills
hands.
to pay the bills.
Yeah, skills, but freaking grit, man. Work.
Yeah.
Like
And that's what a lot of people today are lacking. You know, we've gotten way too comfortable in society as it is now. So if push comes to shove, there's a lot of people that aren't going to be physically able or mentally equipped to do this kind of work.
To survive, not even work, survive.
Yeah.
And that's something else that we talked about with that doctor in the book, right? So think about everybody that's on heart medication
Oh yeah.
or liver or pancreas or people who are on insulin.
Insulin. Yes.
Like, think about how many people who are, you know, obese, people that are, just clinically obese that would not be able to survive.
Even people with dementia.
Schizophrenia, depression,
Oh yeah.
anxiety.
Oh my God. How many I'm the new prophets are we going to see if that
Mm,
happens? So many crazy people are now going to be, the voice of God, quote unquote, and trying to lead people into
yeah.
I, who knows
Into
what.
whatever. Yeah. I mean, but think about that. Just if you aren't physically able, like there is no preparatory period. you are
Yeah.
you are thrust into that situation where you have to figure it out for your food, for
Yeah.
your water, for your fire, for your shelter, clothing, being able to, like we just said, handle your health, medicine. We just talked about medicine, right? Think about if you can't get your meds. What does that look like for you? Like, are you
Hmm.
on medication daily? What happens when you don't get that anymore? Because
Right.
that's, at best, this happens after you just picked up your 30-day prescription. And then what? A
Right.
month before you have to,
Yeah.
deal with the consequences.
Best case scenario, you knew it was coming and you picked up like 6 months worth of pills. Best case,
Yeah.
because that's probably all the depending on your medication the pharmacy's going to have on hand.
Right.
That's best case scenario.
Right. And then it's like, can you source your medication? Are there substitutes with, what's the word?
Herbs.
Yeah, I was gonna say like herbal remedies. Like, do you even like? It's another bullet point we have is
Hmm.
knowledge. Like, do you even know? Like, do
Yeah.
you even know?
Yeah.
I mean, something as simple as this.
Yeah. The
It's the
farmer's
Farmer's
almanac. Yeah.
Almanac. Because if you don't have that, and then you suddenly don't have your computer or your phone or anything else anymore, do you even know what to expect for weather in this next year, next month? When does your rainy season start? When's it going to get cold? I mean, so many things that we just take for
You can
granted.
you can rough guesstimate it, but it's not going to be accurate.
No, growing.
You might be completely wrong. You get caught off
I
guard
mean,
by
hell,
it.
man, that's the
So
Farmer's Almanac growing
just so
season.
yeah, just so you know, you can get the Farmer's Almanac on Amazon. If you don't feel like going there, go to your local. Where did I see them at? I think Michael's. I think I saw them in our local Michael's. They had the Farmer's
Oh yeah, they'll
Almanac.
have
So,
those at like weed and feed stores or ranch and home, all those
mhm,
all those places.
yep. It's that. I mean, did we touch on shelter?
Not really. I mentioned it in passing, but
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's all. That's all that's really good for it. I mean, y- can you fix your home? Can you fix broken glass? Um, can you build things that you need? Like, you are you handy at all? This
well,
is.
insecurity, right?
Can you live like they did in freaking
Well,
Wild West
but
times?
to go along with that security, okay. So if you're listening
Yes.
to this podcast and you're taking this to heart and you're preparing, then you're one side of the coin, right? Think about everybody that's not.
Hmm.
You talk about the human condition. Think about how many
Yes.
people are going to, resort to violence. And
Yep.
I can't say anything because
Theft,
I'm not going to watch
murder.
my family starve,
Yeah.
right? But you have to think about that. Okay. Someone could be completely reasonable, but then after a couple of weeks of watching your kid not have any food, what then?
Yeah. They're going to do whatever they feel like they need
And
to.
if your plan is, oh, I'm
So,
going to, go loot or I'm going to, have a raiding party, first off, screw you if that's your first inclination. Second off, you think you're the only one that's thinking that? So you think you're going to be the first guy that breaks into Costco or Home Depot and you're going to have the whole run of the mill? You're wrong.
Yep.
Hey guys, Seven from the Hard Times Strongmen podcast here to bring a quick word from our newest sponsor, Blackbeard Fire Starters. We first saw Blackbeard Fire Starter a few years ago, and after seeing what the product can do, it's been our kit ever since. Their fire starter rope and their fire plugs are windproof, waterproof, dummy proof. They have an insane burn time, and like anything else that they offer, it just works. Besides their fire starters, they offer an arc lighter, ferro rod, stormproof matches, basically anything that you need to get a fire started. To better equip you, we cherry-picked their inventory and made our Hard Time Strongmen Fire Kit. Basically, our essentials kit for anything that you could need to get a fire started. But besides that, they're offering 10% off anything in their store when you use the code STRONGMEN. We love the guys at Blackbeard Firestarter. We love what they're doing. We trust them and we trust their products. And we honestly can't recommend them enough. Make sure to check them out online at blackbeardfire.com or on Instagram at blackbeardfire. Huge shout out to the guys at Blackbeard Fire for working with us and for bringing the fire. As always, guys, stay in the fight.
Hey everybody, this is 6 and 7 with the Hard Time Strongmen podcast. We are coming to talk to you about our Patreon and Discord.
Hey guys, our patrons get early access to all of our episodes. They get all of our exclusive pre and post shows, all of our spicy takes, all of our rabbit holes that we go on, everything that we want to include in an episode, but we can't because we need to stay on topic. And soon enough, we will be offering digital downloads, guides, everything that we've been working on in the background will soon be available to our patrons. So make sure to check it out.
And come hang out with us on Discord. Speaking of the spicy stuff, this is where we discuss most of it. Once you're there, you'll get access to all of our in-depth discussions, including stuff like homesteading, fieldcraft, medical, camping, communications, shooting. You like ARs? Come talk to us about it. You like 4x4 vehicles and prepping? Come talk to us about it.
You like tannerite, thermite, napalm? Come talk to us about it. All of the campfire talks that would get us kicked off of other platforms, it's right there in our Discord. Come join our community.
We're active on Discord every day. We're interacting with members constantly. We have guys from every walks of life coming to contribute their expertise to all of these various fields and subjects that we've been talking about.
Come join the Discord. Come join the Discord. Join our community. Build up that better class of man. Now back to the episode.
Man, I guarantee you within 24 hours, the local Costco is going to be empty.
Yeah.
If that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened. Look what happened at the beginning of COVID. Look how people just flocked to Target, to Walmart, bought out the toilet paper. Look what happens when the lights go out in the city and they just riot.
Think about Katrina.
I mean, people are going to empty stores. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, the best part is, and I'm going to laugh if it happens, people are going to loot for freaking Jordans. They're going to loot the Apple store. It's like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, I get the shoes, but that laptop doesn't work. That cell phone doesn't work.
Yeah.
But they're still going to steal it.
Well,
because they think it's going to come back on.
I think the most drastic thing is like what we talked about at the beginning of the episode, light and sound, right? So like you aren't ready, like unless you spend a lot of time outdoors, like actually spend good time in the outdoors, like, authentic outdoors, you don't really have a good handle on sunrise and sunset and what all that means.
I miss those days. I really do.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I'm going back to it. We got the trailer set up and we're going to be camping more. But
nice.
Like a lot of people don't realize the dip in temperature right before sunrise. Because you're going up a bit, and that's a killer in of itself, man. Like it is harsh. But
yeah, man, I remember all those times we were out in the field training. I mean, we're sleeping in freaking sleeping bags and it's still cold.
Mm-hmm. Well,
like you wake up and it's just like, well, it's official. My it's just for show.
Or just, you know, imagine like what got me was, you know, thinking about like sunrise, how long sunrise takes depending on what kind of country you're in, you know, what kind of like landscape you're in, what kind of topography you're around. Like
Mhm.
sometimes sunrise takes
True.
forever before you can see anything.
Yeah, if you're in the mountains, oh man, it could take forever.
But, you know, that and being able to see anything, especially in an urban environment, like, dude, if you don't have any lights, if everything's gone, like, they're just going to be places that are permanently dark.
Mhm.
Unless if you have, you know, like a torch or, you know, something to, you know, cause light, then, you know, if you have something that's flammable, I mean, you're causing fumes, you know, not to mention the possibility of, you know, catching, you know, crap on fire.
Including
Yeah.
yourself.
So quick tip, you know, chem lights. It's a really great option. Does cause any
Yeah.
electricity, chemical
Yes.
reactions. There you go. You're good to go. But
Heck yeah, take those. Oh yeah, dude, take one of those, throw them down into a gallon of water.
mhm,
Boom. Instant
lantern.
torch.
Yeah.
Yep, lantern. Thank you.
You're welcome. But
Oh, what's it? Transportation. That's gonna be well. We'll let you finish this thought, but then we got to hit transportation after
I was
this.
gonna say, I was really trying to make a not doom and gloom episode, but then we just like tearing everything down.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I'm I'm in a let's burn this to the ground. You know?
yeah, but transportation. What transportation? It's gone.
Yeah, like yeah. You think you're gonna bug out in your car with your family and like 16 cases of water and like the canned foods in your house and all the guns and ammo you could have stuff into your, your Lexus SUV or BMW SUV or whatever. Yeah, no, that doesn't work anymore. Like newsflash, your car runs off a computer. That computer is now toast. Your car no longer runs unless you have like a older, I, dude, I don't know what
I don't even know,
1940s to
dude. Old
1960s.
vehicle or a buddy who is really good with mechanics, and he can get you a
Yeah,
workaround. But
yeah, unless you can work around the computer. Mm,
other than that, you're in a tough way.
yep.
But
Don't even think you're going to be driving that ATV because that's gone too.
ATV, dirt bike, uh, vehicle. I mean, anything. If you don't know how to ride a bike, first off, your dad failed you. Um, Second off,
That's something we
you
can't
you
teach
should
without
learn.
visuals. So yes,
But you know you're gonna be seeing a lot more of that. Yeah, I imagine
mm,
that's gonna be your runners, your messengers. You know, things like that are gonna be on bicycles just because that's a hell of a way to travel. It's about as close to I'm gonna say this wrong, but like 1-to-1 mechanical advantage. You know what I mean? Like,
mm,
you know, actually
probably a little better, but
movement. It's probably the best we have at this point.
yeah, yeah.
But
Honestly, yeah.
you know that and walking.
Um,
That's basically all you've got.
yeah. I mean those new like completely silent electric motorcycles that Marsoc's going to be fielding. Yeah, no, those aren't going to work anymore
You
either.
know,
So sorry about you.
wheelbarrows, shopping carts,
Tesla's,
bicycles,
yeah.
skateboards,
Horses,
horses. Hell yeah, donkeys,
horses, pack mules. Yep,
horses. Learn how to ride a horse
that's. But then the problem is you got to feed that horse.
and
So
water that horse and protect that
and
horse.
water that horse.
And
And yes, in case that horse gets sick, you got to have medicine on hand, which you're not going to have. So
same thing with
learn how to ride a bike.
well, that's my thing too. Like same thing with your food, right? I mean, we're going all over, we're growing all over the place with this episode. But like, say you have you're perfectly self sustained on your 5 acres, right? You have your cows and your goats and your rabbits and your chickens and your geese and your turkeys and everything, right? You're hunky dory, and then your freaking goat gets an infection. What now? You know, like all this stuff. You need to make buddies. You better have a buddy that's a vet
Yes.
or have a
Yeah.
buddy who grew up on a farm and knows what he's doing and can teach you.
Don't look at me, man. I never had goats.
Like, I'll just say my buddy Jay, you know,
Oh,
the one
yeah.
that's good at everything,
Jesus. That guy.
pisses me off.
God.
But
Makes me feel inadequate.
God, he emasculates me every time I hang out with him, man. It's always something with him. Anyway,
I mean,
great
the
guy,
long story
great
short
buddy
of
to
this is
have.
stop hanging out with him, but
Great buddy to have because like anything I lack, he's good to go, which is awesome. But
yeah.
no, and that leads me to my last point is just knowledge. Knowledge.
You don't know what you don't know. So I recommend knowing it now.
Paperback.
Yes, books. Oh my gosh, books.
Paperback. Build up your library. Well, probably I'd love to do just a dedicated episode on what I would want in a library.
We probably could. We'll have to do that later.
Yeah, it'll be a shorter one, but I really want to do that episode. But if you don't have, and that's what we're talking about, getting back to these, these old school traditions, these old school roles, these old school, tasks and skill sets. If you don't have a library, you need to fix that. I cannot stress that enough.
Don't have an electronic
Absolutely
library.
not. It does. It pales in comparison.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
cool having
you have no,
still.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, brother. I'm a little jazzed up. Like, you don't have an excuse anymore. Like, it's so easy to get all this information. So easy. Like, all these little libraries are dying out, but I guarantee they have a Xerox machine.
Yeah.
I guarantee they have like industrial copy printer fax machine, right? So if you have your electronic library and you're like, oh, I can't buy this on paperback. Okay, load up a flash drive with whatever books you want, spend however much money, get those on paper, print all that off.
And to play devil's advocate, the main reason people do this is just to save space because nobody wants to fill up an entire room of their house with all the knowledge they should probably have on paperback anyway. But the problem is, you should probably fill up a room in your house with all the knowledge you should have on paper anyway.
Oh, 100%, man. I mean, and I have a little Kindle. I have like 20 or 30 books on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love, like, don't get me wrong, I love technology. I do. But you can't trust it to last.
No. And my wife and I have two small bookshelves that we got off of Wayfair. And we filled them. We both filled them one each with books, and we still had stuff left over.
Oh yeah,
all of our books right now are in storage because we're doing a nursery, but still, like,
oh yeah,
we still have
them. My wife's a dual master student. I built a bookshelf for her on the entire wall of our office, and she filled that thing with books to spare. Like, in my little office here, I have a couple shelves filled with just my FMs and everything else, just like knowledge that you otherwise won't have. Like, especially if you're a dad or a mom, if you are, if you're the head of a legacy, like, it is your responsibility to be collecting all this stuff so that you can pass it on later. It is absolutely your responsibility to pick that up. I mean, and going back to what we were saying earlier, outside of like electronics, like, buying crap on Amazon or whatever, it's so easy. Like, go to a garage sale or an estate sale. All those old guys with all those old tools, all that old knowledge, like books and books and books, like libraries full of information, and they'll sell it for like $1 or $5, like $2, whatever. You spend $100, and granted, that's a good chunk of change. You spend $100, you could fill a freaking bookshelf full of information. Like, we went to a garage sale, and I got carpentry, gardening, herbal remedies. What I literally got like a handyman's guide to like just a house, like managing a household for like $1, $2. We went to our local library and they were selling out old stock. And dude, I just went in there, vitamins, like gardening, homesteading, like just a treasure trove of information.
Dude, yes.
Like, and then just imagine that, if all this stuff, turns off, blows up, goes down. I mean, you still have those books. I mean, they were printed for a reason.
True.
That's how you keep that sort of thing alive,
So
especially things like, the Farmer's Almanac, where if you didn't grow up with it, you don't have that. Like, you just don't have that knowledge. You don't have that headspace. Like, that's what you need.
even those of us that did grow up that way, like, I mean, I still need a refresher from time to time,
Yeah.
just because I've been out of it for so long that it takes some. There's a learning curve, folks. There's a huge learning curve to this kind of thing, and you know, to quote probably I wouldn't say one of the worst movies out there, but to me it was entertaining. Still a crappy movie, but the movie Sahara. They were talking about you know getting out of a country, and they were talking about their time in the SEALs, and they were just like the, the guy was just like, yeah, it was pretty much an easy test. It was either we got out or we didn't. It was pass fail, so I found that easier. This is all pass fail. You're either going to survive or you're not.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to get a letter grade. Oh, I did this. I did this. Who cares? Did you survive? Yes. No. Well, we're not talking. So,
Yeah.
but we're all doom and gloom. Let's talk about a little bit more of a bright side. Give some people some hope. How about the electronics that probably survive an EMP?
Go for
So, if you have things Faradayed, more than likely it's going to survive. We're talking Faraday bags, Faraday cages. It's more than likely going to survive
it. What is a
EMP.
Faraday?
Number two. So, I'm glad you asked that because I'm going to have to look it up.
I'm glad you asked that because I'm Googling it right now. So a Faraday cage or a Faraday shield is an enclosure used to block electromagnetic fields. So it can be formed by a continuous covering of conductive material, or in the terms of a Faraday cage, a mesh of such materials. So what does that actually mean? It's part where you talk.
So, you put something in the cage or the bag, and if it's a phone or a radio, it's not going to get any signal because nothing electronic is coming through. Period. It's blocking it out.
So being
So, in theory,
conductive, right? So
correct.
you're covering something that conducts electricity. So think of like a metal mesh cage, right? If someone
Hmm.
were to try to arc a spark, across at you, if you're inside the cage, the mesh, that cage, is going to absorb that electricity before it gets to you.
Yep.
It's conductive. It's naturally going to be absorbed by that material, as opposed to what it is covering. So the idea being like a Faraday bag is something like a bag that's impregnated by a flexible metal, right? You throw your phone or a laptop or whatever inside of it, right? Same idea with like a bucket with a metal lid, like galvanized bucket with a metal lid, or a shipping container. And granted, some of these are not going to have the same efficacy as others, but
Right.
the idea is the same. You're trying to enclose whatever you're trying to protect with a defense. So you're trying to essentially sacrifice the mesh that'll get hit by it because you're not worried about the covering. You're not worried about the cage, right? You're worried about the goods that are inside of it.
Right.
We said
And we
things
have
that'll
a,
survive. So
I
things
have
that
a
are
good
inside a
source
Faraday cage,
for,
right?
I've got a good source for, you know, electromagnetic pulse protection and restoration. It comes from the Department of Homeland Security. So it's, take it with a grain of salt, but it's a good starting point.
Okay.
It's a good way to get, your feet wet with it. And I'll send it to you. We can put it in the description.
Sounds great.
People can read through it. It's a freaking long thing, dude.
Yeah.
It is 96 pages.
Oof. So
Yeah,
much.
it's a tough read. I've been sitting here trying to look through it, and like if you've seen my eyes glazing over, it's because of this. It's rough. But back to what we were talking about, what can survive. So you might get lucky. your solar panels might survive.
Really?
Mhm.
That's interesting.
If you're off the grid, more than likely they're gonna survive. So, the nuclear EMP will probably do, a little bit of damage. It'll probably have, like, reduced effectiveness and functionality, but it might I'm gonna emphasize might survive.
Hmm.
And if that's the case, you're freaking golden.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say
And you better hope that your freaking batteries are golden too.
if you're preparing for this right, then what's stopping you from getting like a steel or a like a shipping connex?
Nothing.
And then if you're worried about the hinges on the door, letting whatever pulse in, then you could just weld like a steel mesh in front, with the door and everything as an
Mhm.
extra protection. But
Yep.
think about that, right? So you throw in solar panels, your charge inverter, like everything that you would need to to get up and running again inside,
A
and
generator of some kind,
potentially
yeah.
you'd be good to go.
Mhm.
So definitely some considerations.
So,
Anything else?
yeah, uh, non-electric appliances. So we're talking fireplaces, solar ovens, power tools, generators that aren't connected to the grid. They won't be affected by the EMP. Um, manual appliances. I mean, those are 100% EMP proof. If they operate by hand, yeah, you're as long as you're still operating, it's still operating. So we're talking about a hand powered like coffee percolator, pasta maker,
Mm-hmm.
manual mixer, can openers, specific battery powered devices can survive as well.
Dude, Dutch ovens.
Also,
Like,
right,
you can make so much in a Dutch oven, man.
if you don't have a Dutch oven, you're wrong. Get a Dutch
Since
oven,
it's $70 at Atwoods, pre-seasoned.
if that,
Like,
if that,
I'm just gonna say cast iron all the way,
if that.
regardless. Pots, pans,
Cast iron for most things.
Dutch ovens.
Yeah, you can cast iron a lot of things, but some of it depends on what you're cooking. It's not for
I'm just
that.
saying for long term considerations.
Right. For long term,
Like,
yes,
I've
yes.
seen it where a guy had a completely rusted over, like he pulled out of a lake or something, like 100-year-old cast iron pot, and he was able to restore it,
Yeah, like
good as
new.
new.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love them. I have used and abused my cast iron, and it's still like I could probably scrub the crap out of it and turn it back into like the day I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, vintage electronics. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about stuff that uses vacuum tubes,
Mm,
old stuff like vacuum tubes. They're gonna still work. EMPs are not gonna affect the vacuum tubes at all.
yeah. I mean, that, like you said, that old stuff is, if you can find in good condition or know someone who can restore it or teach you how, that stuff's golden. I'm
Hmm.
thinking like especially the like the crank phones, like the trench phones, World War II,
Yeah,
those things.
yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
there you go. That's your communication.
yeah. I mean, well, think about it too. Morse code. You run a phone line, a copper
Oh my
wire.
gosh.
You can use Morse code.
Crazy.
Yeah. Last thing I've got on this, and this falls into the maybe category. Small electric appliances, mobile devices. They might survive, and only if they're in a concrete building. If and only if they're in a concrete building.
Oh my gosh.
So
You
that
just made me think
also
of
that what?
everybody with a pacemaker is dead.
Yeah,
I
hundred
just thought
percent.
about that. Phew.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Yep.
You just made small appliances. My head instantly went there. It's like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If they might get lucky if they're in a concrete building.
If
Guess what? A lot of the buildings down here in Florida are concrete block.
yeah,
The windows are not, but
or think about
The roof's
or think
not
about like
loose.
I don't know. I'm just thinking of like I'm just thinking of like shielding when just like coincidental. Like think about people with like root cellars that's under like a
Yeah,
good
if you're
amount of earth.
underground,
Yeah. Or like people that are
if you're
like in a
underground, I
silo
think you're okay.
or like
Yeah.
those buildings that are, mainly like, connexes or I don't know. I'm just thinking like the coincidental things, like especially underground stuff. Like that's the kind of thing where I could see that working out.
Yeah. I mean, by and far, if you want to survive, have backups for stuff that are stored in like Faraday cages or hell, even tinfoil. Tinfoil is a poor man's Faraday cage.
I was gonna say if you double or triple wrap it, yeah,
Yeah, and make sure that like all the edges, the creases
overlapped.
where stuff can get in on the side, those are overlapped. You're good, you know. But the problem is you also have to make sure that it's well grounded.
Right.
If it's not well grounded, you it ain't gonna work. It don't matter. But again, tinfoil could work.
Potentially.
Could very well work. Um, Another one is a steel garbage can with a lid.
Yep.
If you, as long as there's no holes, you're good. You
I was
know,
gonna say you could even use like
you can
the
line the,
aluminum tape, like for HVAC units.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I didn't even think about that. Metal roof or solar panel house. Those need to be well grounded as well, but those should provide protection, especially from like directly
I was gonna
above.
say a steel
Um,
or a metal roof unit had to be grounded anyways.
exactly,
So
exactly. So as long as it's grounded, you're good. You can also throw stuff in a mic. I almost said it. You could also throw stuff in a microwave. Yep. Reading right here, they generally operate at 2.45 gigahertz, and they have built-in shielding that uses non-ionizing radiation.
nice.
So,
Huh.
oh yeah, the glass window of a microwave has small holes and a metal screen, which can act as a Faraday cage.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah,
Mini Faraday cage probably every household has. Neat.
yeah, exactly.
Neat.
Um, yeah, and of course, the real solution is Faraday cage.
Yeah. All right, I've got a what do you call it? A officer of doom and gloom. Little white flag.
Okay, what do you got?
If you're listening to this right now, it's not too late. If you're able to listen to this episode and consider all of this, nothing's happened yet.
Still good.
So you still have time to prepare. You still have time to build up your library, build friendships and community, build up your skill set in things that are built to last, things that have been forgotten or things that have been overlooked by our current society, things that aren't seemed as important with the technology that we have, right? It's, I'm a firm believer that it's never too late, but if you are listening to this right now, then you still have time in order to be more prepared. Because I
Yeah,
think that was, we tried to give you a good visual and, draw you in and, give you the atmosphere of what it would feel like and what would be like if everything were to go dark. But I think more shocking than all of that is just that realization that there is no longer time to prepare, that this happened and now you got to roll with it or die. I think
yeah,
that would be the
that's
worst part,
oof,
is having to act and you can't catch your breath anymore. Like you are going.
that's probably the obesity talk.
I hate you. The only good part about an EMP would be I would never have to see you again. Um,
You're not wrong. Feelings mutual.
no, but this was a golly, man, what a bummer of an episode.
Right?
Oh, but this is a obviously very, very important and very serious subject. But we hope that we've been able to give you some considerations on how you can be better prepared, things that you haven't considered before on some of the actual threat that this is and the actual effect that this could pose. And I really hope that causes you to get moving on this stuff and get serious.
Right.
Because the part that's scary for me is that it could happen at any time. That's what scared me. So
right.
While you can, get after it. Do you have anything else?
Go read 1 Second After. Go read the whole trilogy. It will open your eyes. I mean, it's not some revolutionary idea. It is everything that we have literally been talking about for over a year now.
Yeah. But it does really give a really great perspective. Yeah.
Yes. Perspective is key, and that series will give you all the perspective you need to be like, well, I'm either going to prepare for this or I'm just going to, ride this thing into the ground. So don't be caught off guard.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
All right, guys. Well, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. If you're listening to this and you're investing in this, then you are who we're trying to invest in, because you're the one that's going to make the difference at the end of the day. So,
yeah, I know this is a tough thing, but we're here. Come join our Patreon. Come join our Discord and talk to us about the stuff, because if you couldn't get enough of it here, we'll definitely give you more of it there.
With that being said, guys, we are the Hard Time Strongmen podcast. Showing up a better class man. Stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight.
Hey guys, this is 6 and 7 with the Hard Time Strongmen podcast. Wanted to take a second to do a mental health check-in and to tell you all about the 988 Crisis Lifeline. So, the 988 Lifeline is a national network of local crisis centers that provides free and confidential emotional support to people in suicidal crisis or emotional distress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the United States. You can reach the Lifeline at 988lifeline.org, or you can call or text 988 to get help, to get someone real on the phone.
Every struggle is different. Every struggle is hard. But you are not alone in whatever you're going through. As someone who has used the 988 crisis line, I fully recommend that if you're feeling any of those feelings of depression, suicide, hopelessness, get in touch with them immediately. They will help you. They will listen to you.
Once again, guys, you can reach the Lifeline at 988lifeline.org, or you can call or text them at 988. As always, guys, stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight.